Hello my friends, thank you for joining me today. So up last time we, before I forget, make sure you leave a positive comment for the giveaway. And anyways, I'll leave more information in the description. I keep seeing it in every video, so you probably heard it. So now we've cut the grooves on the bottom, and I want to show you this little part that happened. I did lose a little piece. It flaked off. I can't find it, but again, I guess it's one of the imperfections that you see on handmade stuff. It's not much. It won't affect anything like structurally or wise, but yeah, this one did not end up as well. There's a little bit of chipping and breaking out on the back here. But, well, I guess it is as it's going to be. So, another thing that I've done is I've labeled made sure I have each of these spots labeled on the top. However you label it is fine, just make sure that you know so they can correspond, because we're going to be cutting the joints, the finishing up the sides, the sides and the bottom today. So we want to make sure that they all go in the right spot. But if you see I put this like this, and all of them fit like this. These grooves all line up. That's what we're looking for. When it's flush on the back, the grooves line up all the way across. So basically we made a box that goes all the way around. We're going to have to put the divider in a second. I don't know if we'll do that this video or next one. But we're going to cut these, because right now they don't go all the way to the end. So we need to cut a little notch out so they set in. And we're going to cut the final distance on these boards, or true them up. We'll figure out what we're going to do. But so anyways, let's get started. Okay, so I'm going to do one of these, and then I'll pause it and bring it back after I get all of them, because you guys don't need to see all 4 of these being cut. All of them are going to be cut exactly the same. So, doesn't matter which one. What I'm going to do is I want to flush this up in the back, take my marking knife. Oh, by the way, the tools that I'm going to use for this: marking knife, 1/4-inch chisel and a 1/2-inch chisel, maybe the 1/2-inch, I'm not sure. We have our saw, our crosscuts, our rip saw, square, and our router blade just as a marking gauge. We're going to use our router blade as a marking gauge. All right, so I'm going to take this and I'm just going to flush up the back, make a little mark at the edge so we can see it. If you need to take a pencil and darken it in. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm actually going to draw a line down on either side. Drew a line down on either side and across the bottom. And this can be with pencil. You can make it with the knife you want, but the depth doesn't matter super. We just want to make sure we have enough space. We're going to be flushing it up with the back, not to the front. Our goal is to get close. Okay, so next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take this and make just a little tick. So all I've done is just make a little, I flushed it on the bottom and made a little tick on it, on this board. That'll give us the depth, but I don't trust it. Trust this end to be completely square. So I'm going to take my reference edge, that's this back part, the part with the groove. I'm going to lay my square on that reference mark, stick a knife into that spot, and I'm going to mark across the front, mark across this. And I'm going to follow that line all the way around. Always keeping it on the reference edge. Reference side, reference faces. So now I'm on the back, I'm going to flip it around, so because this is our reference edge now. Okay, so now, I'm going to take use the proper saw for the proper technique this time. This is going a cross cut. This is a cross cut here. So I'm going to take this saw. And again, I start with the saw above the board, and then I move forward as I'm lowering it down. That gets me started. So that's, since it's a small piece, it's all the way across. I'm going to lower it down, but I'm not going to the other into the piece, into the depth. I don't want to. No point. So I'm stopping before I get to the end. And that was not a very good cut, but it's fine because you want to, if you're gonna err at all, err on marking it on the opposite side of the board. So when you're cutting it, you see right here is my line, and that was a terrible cut, but it's okay. I can fix it with a chisel because I cut onto the waist side. This side is much better. This is more like what I'm aiming for, just a little bit, just above that, just above the line. So this is more what I'm looking for. This is not. But another thing you can do here, instead of a saw, it's up to you. You can either use the dovetail saw or take your chisel, put it right on that line, and chop down. So that, I guess that is quicker. But so that works for that. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to bring you guys around so you can see this better. I'm going to take my 1/4 inch chisel, set it right in that line and right in the middle. So I'm going to take the meat out the middle first. And I'm trying to get flat. Completely flat. Okay? And I'm going to take this and I'm going to watch this side edge. Watch the edge of the board. So I don't want to get rid of that marking knife line, because that'll show up as a gap. So I'm just peeling off the outside edge. I think I was a little bit of a crown there, so I'm going to take this back again. And same thing on this side. Now this one's a little bit more, so I'm actually going to kind of pare it back just a little bit first. Okay, so now I'm just about there. This is where I wish I would have been with the saw. And I'm just following that line. There. Now, can you see? I'm gonna bring you in really close. Do you see that line right there? That lighter color line? You want that to be all the way across, because that is your knife line, and you don't want to lose that. So, let's back it up a little bit. And this board goes to this joint. So, I want to try to do, I'm going to tap it just slightly. There's a gap, it's a little bit tight, more tight than I would like. So what I'm going to do is on the outside, because the inside is our square line, our actual registration line. So on the outside, I'm going to fit this joint completely. So I'm going to take my smoothing plane, start back at the edge, back towards the middle. Taking a few shavings off. And make sure it's on the outside edge. Oh no. How did I do that? Oh my goodness. So, if you can see, I messed up. Somehow, when I marked it, the depth, I went quite a bit too far. So we've got to fix that. So what I'm going to do is take off. I've got to cut this down a little bit. So what I'm doing is I'm measuring that, and it's just about a 1/16. So now, because I messed up, I need to take a 1/16 off of each of these edges, each piece. And it doesn't matter which side you take it off of, but I need to make sure both of these are exactly the same. And the rail. So all three of these, I need to take it, all three of these pieces, all three of these pieces need to come down a 1/16 of an inch. So told you I'd show you all my faults. Now this is going to be a challenge because I can't plane this. I'm going to cut this down. Hold on, just. I'm going to cut this off first. Okay, so now this part's going to be the challenging part. What I'm going to do is I'm going to treat that just like a dovetail, or and do it with a chisel. Because if I try to plane with this, it's just going to split this edge off. So I'm going to come in here just to create a little stop right at this junction there. And I'm going to be on the inside first and clean up some of that space. bit. Okay, so I went a little low on the back here, not on my line. This is turning into a disaster. I'm just chiseling off this back part. Don't do what I just did. Don't let the chisel fly off the edge. There, now I have that part done. And take my plane, turn it back into vise, a little better. And I'm going to plane down just like I did before. going to check this. What I'm doing when I clean that out is I want to make sure I can see where I'm actually taking the shavings out. So I'm looking down in the hole there. Okay. So it's pretty good. I'm going to live with it right now. Could be a little better, but yeah, so let's try this again. Okay, nice. So actually, that 16th was perfect. Check that. With a little bit of hand pressure. See if you can find that joint there. That gap in the front, there isn't one. And that's just a little hand pressure. And in the back, you can see that's that. There is a small gap on this side, but I don't want to go any lower because that'll mess up things. So the biggest thing where that mess up that I had, you can't plane, because as soon as if I hit this with a plane, it would just shatter, break off. So that's why I had to go in with a chisel and get that little edge part. So I planed off, I was able to use the plane from this section because there was supporting fibers I could stop. But don't hit this, because as soon as you hit this with a plane, it would just pop right off. So yeah. Now I have to go through, I'll do this off video, but I'm going to take these pieces and take that 16th inch off, both of these. This is both sides and that middle divider. Those all should be the same size. And I'll be back. Okay, I wanted to show you this before I go too far. This is that little middle piece. I just cut it down. And I don't want to actually, I might not have cut this one. Well, I should have. So again, I don't want to break off these little pieces, so I'm going to do this one with by hand. So all I'm doing is following those lines. That's why you don't want to mess up a cut if you can help it. It takes a long time to fix stuff. Alright, so now that I have the two edges done, now I can come through and break it off. I'm going to cut this off a little bit more. Keep things tight in the vise, keeps the vibrations down. Okay, now it's not so much. I think even with a shooting board, this would be difficult. Okay, so what I did was I just took down both edges. I'm going to take down the middle. I don't want to tear out, break out that middle section. I'm just taking a little bit right there, find my reference edge. And you can see this square that way. Square and square that way. It's just about as good as I can get it. A little high spot. This is being picky. This will actually all be gone. Just a little bit of a high spot right on the inside of that corner. There. So that's square. Yeah. All right. So now that I have you back, after wasting that much time, always double check. You don't want to do like I just did. So what I'm going to do is I'm flushing up the bottom, and it's this groove here. So this time I'm just going to take a mark again, but this time I'm using the previous board as my guide as opposed to the Just double check. Okay. And since we took really good care to making sure it was nice and square, I just took it and flipped it around. Because all the depths should all be the same. And I'll mark it. Mark here. But the other part we want to check, the depth. All right, so I'm laying off my mark, so I gotta make sure I do this right. Relabel that. Just like before, take my knife and make a nick. Everything else should be the same, so I'm going to do these three. And by the time when I get done with this, I'm going to flip this. I'm going to use this as a template to get this side, the side I didn't cut. So I will be back once I get all that stuff cut out. Everything else should be the same, and if I have mistakes, I'll be sure to come back and show you. All right, bye. Okay, I didn't make a mistake yet because I haven't done any cutting. All I've done is mark it out. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change my idea a little bit. Instead of waiting till the end, I'm going to mark this depth right like this. So what I'm doing is just squaring up the edge so they're flush. And then making a little tick mark right there. So hopefully that should be more accurate. As soon as you cut something, you have a tendency to maybe make it a little bit, make a gap. So I'm using this mark to be a little bit more precise. That way, before I do any cutting, it's just my lifeline. All right, so again, I'll be back. I'll have these three cut and fit in. Remember, if they're not long enough, if they're too wide, I'll just plane off a little bit of the edge so that they will fit. But I'll start in the middle of the board so you don't see that line. Like you can. I mean, if you hold it in light, you can see where I started, but you can't just by looking at this see where that happened because that's a nice graceful taper. All right, so, and again, remember planing off the tip for thickness. In this case, because we used our inside line as our square line, we don't want to touch that. That's our reference edge. So plane it off the back, which is not our reference edge. So that I'd rather have a gap than an unsquare box. Okay, I'll be back.